Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is always a pleasure to come back to Slovenia and to present some insights that the World Energy Council has gathered. Despite of my frequent visits to Slovenia, I'm still not able to present this speech today in Slovenian, so you have to apologize that I will still speak in English. When we speak about the development of national energy strategies in these days, then it is actually a very intriguing and very difficult exercise. In my history, I have been working for 10 years as an Undersecretary of State for Energy in Estonia, and during these days we prepared two national strategies for energy. And if I would be asked today to do the same exercise, I would have been in a much more difficult situation than in these days, like 10, 15 years ago. So there are so much uncertainties around for the future, and it is very difficult for the governments today to make very firm decisions as far as the developments in the energy scene are actually very fast. But I will start today with speaking about the basics of the energy policy and how World Energy Council is addressing the World Energy Trilemma, as we call it, with the triple objectives, often contradictory objectives of the energy policy, and how we have measured the performance of different countries in this balancing of energy trilemma, of these contradictory objectives of the energy policy. So, and among that, I will then go more deeper into the Slovenian results of this analysis that we have made. And finally, I will just provide you with some thoughts for the future development of the energy sector in global context, and that will also have a very big impact to your strategy as well. So when we speak about the energy trilemma, then we speak about triple objectives of every single energy policy. All the energy policy developers have to look for the energy security, how to effectively manage the primary energy supply of domestic and external resources to supply the energy for the customers. Secondly, you have to look for the energy equity. What we mean by that is that we have to look at the energy access and also affordability of the energy prices to the customers. How well or how cheap or how expensive is the energy for their customers. And thirdly, you have to, of course, look for the environmental sustainability levels. How well you are performing in your energy generation and in energy consumption with all the environmental objectives and the environmental impacts. So what we do in World Energy Council is the analysis every year of comparative ranking of 130 countries all around the world in these three dimensions. In terms of energy security, in means of energy equity, and environmental sustainability. What we get there is a kind of triangle for each country, and we get the country ranking in overall ranking among 130 countries. And we also provide, so to say, balanced score to say how well you're performing in terms of energy security, environmental sustainability, and energy equity. First 25% of the countries get A ranking in each dimension. 25 to 50% get B ranking. Then 50 to 75% get C ranking, and the rest of the 75 to 100% get D ranking. So this is a simple principle behind the whole exercise. When I spoke a few years ago about the same exercise here, then we had a methodology that looked at the 60 different data sets and 23 indicators. Last year we improved our methodology, and that's why also the rank of Slovenia has changed comparatively with the former results. So what we have done is that we are now looking for 35 indicators and 100 data sets behind that. And we have also changed the weight of the 3 main dimensions and of the, so to say, contextual performance of the countries. So in overall today, 90% of the overall result comes from these 3 main dimensions. Before that, it was just 75%. And the contextual performance is just 10% of the overall performance. Today I will speak only about these 3 main dimensions. I will not go into the contextual performance indicators in there. If we look where actually among the countries of the world are the top performing countries, then you can see that the top 25% are mainly in North America and in Europe, with few exceptions like New Zealand and Japan and Uruguay as well. There are countries that perform mainly in these areas. The worst performing countries are, in our analysis, mainly in Africa and also in Asia. If you look at the top 10 countries now, you can see that in overall performance, Denmark scores as number 1, followed by Switzerland and Sweden. And you may see that there are, so to say, usual suspects in this performance ranking. However, I would always argue about some of these outcomes from the perspective. Well, for example, in terms of energy security, Denmark performs very well just due to his neighbors, because he has very good supplies of connections with Norway, with Germany, and that's why they also get very flexible supplies for their electricity system, and they can use a lot of renewables due to that. So it's not simply just the performance of the countries, but it much depends also in the position. But you can also see already from here that in some performances, Slovenia performs quite well. In terms of energy security, you can find Slovenia in the 2nd place in the world among these 130 countries. But let's have a deeper look then in Slovenia. As you can see from the slide here, the overall performance, the overall score of Slovenia is AAB, which means that you perform very well in terms of energy security and energy equity. And in terms of environmental sustainability, your performance is a bit lower of this top 25%. In terms of contextual performance, the result is number 35 among the 130 countries. So in overall results, Slovenia is at the rank 12. So you mean, in principle, you are in top 10 of the world, top 10%, which I would say is a very good performance. Now the question is how to move forward from here. And I would now take a bit deeper look into all of these indicators that we have analyzed among these set dimensions that we have here. So, in terms of energy security, we have looked at 6 main indicators. In terms of diversity of primary energy supply, you are in, and in the diversity of electricity generation, you are in the top, say, especially in diversity of electricity generation, where you can see that Slovenia scores as number 4 among all the countries. So the energy balance in the electricity sector is very well settled. There is no dominant energy source in the sector that would say prevail and would create actually additional risks for the energy security. What you can see from here is that the main concern you may see is about the import dependence, where it's ranked just 75th among the 130 countries, which may be reduced by the renewables and also, of course, with the energy efficiency, which would actually provide lesser demand for the energy sector. When it comes to other part of the energy security on resilience, then you might notice that in energy storage you are number 1, but don't look too deeply into that, because say all the countries who have at least 90 days energy storage of the oil storage are performing number 1. So there are majority of the, or like close to half of the countries perform as number 1 in this indicator. Then, in terms of energy equity, we look at the access to electricity supply and clean cooking facilities. And here we can see that actually you are also performing among the top countries. Again, here the relevant part is that if the electricity supply is guaranteed to 100% of the customers, then say you are number 1, always. And access to clean cooking is the same logic there. Where you can see actually question marks arising would be about the quality of electricity supply, where we are looking at the surveys of the World Economic Forum against the countries' say questionnaires. The World Economic Forum is asking annually from the customers in countries how well they're satisfied with the electricity supply. And here the Slovenia ranks as 33 with the satisfaction level of the customers. When it comes to affordability and competitiveness of the energy prices, then you can see that you are just above the average levels. Say, you can see that the ranks here are, say, on gasoline, diesel prices and 56, electricity prices on 48, and on natural gas prices 38. So, in case of natural gas prices, you're actually close to this top 25%, but in other terms, it's lower in average. Then we come to the difficult part, environmental sustainability dimension. And here you can see that there is more yellow and even red in the screen. Final energy intensity, Slovenia ranks just on 74th position, below the 50% level. And in terms of CO2 intensity, you rank 80. And in terms of CO2 emissions per capita, you're ranking 96th position, which means that there are two things that are influencing that. One is you use quite a lot of coal still in the energy production, and secondly, the energy efficiency of the buildings may have also an impact here, because say if you use more energy for buildings, you just have to produce more thermal-based and fossil-based energy as well. This is something that can be considered in the development of the new energy policy as well. So these are the main indicators that we have looked at, these three categories. So when moving forward, then I would like to highlight three areas where actually the success factor is lying. Firstly, about the introduction of new technologies. You know that a lot of new technologies are today coming to a stage where the economic viability of their performance is getting actually close to the viability. So it means that, for example, in case of solar panels and electric storage, you may see already today that you even, in some cases, don't need additional subsidies anymore to make them economically efficient for, say, for some consumers, which deliver new dimensions actually also into the energy policy. So the openness to new technologies will be one of the key factors that we will have a look also in our analysis in coming years. Secondly, digitalization of energy sector provides a lot of new possibilities also from the perspective of customers. By introducing, for example, hourly metering to customers will accordingly also improve the engagement of the customers. They will be empowered actually also to impact or change their behaviors if they see the benefit coming from, say, saving energy in the high-priced hours. All of these small things will actually deliver in the future very big changes to the sector, for the electricity sector especially, and the readiness of the electricity sector to cope with such kind of changes will be one of the aspects that has to be followed very thoroughly. And thirdly, the governance. Governance of the energy policy will be a key factor to drive forward the say, changes in the energy sector. The stronger stance the government takes in development of energy policy, by doing it also in a very internationally open way, in a cooperative way with the other countries, the better results you will actually receive in the long run. It means that the development also of the legislation in the EU level with winter package will be a very crucial for the development of a common and very transparent energy policy for not only in European Union level but also in all country levels. If the countries are able to guarantee that there will be strong regulation where the governments will strive the transition of the energy sector from the current state to a new world, as EU likes to say, then we can see that say the results when government has a strong role in this, so by supporting the investments, by defining what kind of technologies will be used, opening also the markets up fully for the customers by regulations, so that the customers can actually be empowered to make their own economic decisions on the energy market, the better results you will actually receive. So 3 points: technology and innovation, what will strive the future; digitalization, But I will add here also that with the digitalization, the second part of the coin is always the cyber security. So cybersecurity has to be a part of the energy policy as well. And thirdly, the governance of the energy policy, which has to be very well driven by the government in a universally incorporated way. So, with these words, I would like to thank you for your attention and open up for the discussion. Thank you.